Hello, it's John Heaton, and today I'm going to show you my vinyl copy of Bob Dylan Bootleg series first, and then I'm going to have another dive into Street Legal because I listened to a podcast which I'll tell you about in a minute. So pick this up. This is another beautiful package. It's only a double LP package, so you don't get all of the stuff from the deluxe set, but so much nicer to have it on proper 12-inch vinyl than CD, although obviously on CD you get the full package. So the vinyl comes in these two nice sleeves, and so I'm not sure how they selected the tracks to go on the vinyl. For the most part I don't have a problem with it because it was never going to be complete. But a little bit disappointed that Lord Protect My Child didn't find his way onto the vinyl in particular. And then this booklet, which in the CD, same as in the CD, but so much nicer to have it on the full size. The same liner notes and some great pictures, which when they're blown up look superb. And this one was not terribly expensive for a double album. I think I could justify buying it quite easily. Considering you get this, I mean, it's not a 100-page booklet or anything, but it's lovely photos from the Infidels and Empire Burlesque sessions, and maybe a few from Shot of Love. So, as I said in my previous review, I think this is an extremely important release in Bob's catalogue, and if not the best of the bootleg series, then, you know, in my top 5 for sure. Thinking off the top of my head, the Telltale Signs covering the 80s is up there. Sorry, covering the 90s mainly, and the alternative Blood on the Tracks is also obviously up there. Still waiting for them, and now we'll get on to discuss Street Legal again, and still waiting for them to do a bootleg series of Street Legal. And the reason I'm revisiting this album again today is because I listened to a podcast recommended to me by my friend Henry Hemming. Thank you, Henry. So he'd just been listening to it and he put me onto it. And I listened to a few podcasts over the years, but don't spend an awful lot of time listening to them because they are quite long on the whole. But check out this one. Checked out this one. It's on Spotify as well as other places. It's run by a couple of guys, I think called Ian and Evan, but they call themselves the Jokermen. I'll try and leave a link in the description below to their Spotify account. Anyway, they had a couple of guests on because they were specifically discussing Street Legal, and they had Matt Crafting and Josh Builder. And so all four of them had gathered to reappraise Street Legal, having the Jokermen having virtually dismissed it in an earlier review, and then had come to their senses and actually think it's a classic. And Matt Crafting and Josh Builder had always been huge fans of this album, and they were introduced as, I think it was Street Legal, what was the word? Street Legal fans or Street Legal advocates or something. I would class myself in that bracket. I think if I was being purely subjective, Street Legal is possibly my favourite Dylan album, although if I'm trying to be objective about it, I would put Blood on the Tracks slightly higher. But it's a big personal favourite, and the thing about this album, as the guys talk about, I'll talk about some of their comments, is it's so rich in lyrical imagery, lyrical meaning, and if you listen to it once, you could gain 50 things from it, and then you listen to it the next time and you gain another 50 things. It's literally that much in it, and it's great that it has the words. Desire also came with the words, but previous to that, not many Dylan albums came with the words, and I'm just trying to think before or since. I mean, obviously some of them have come with the words, but it's not normal practice for Dylan to include the words in his album. So to have them on Desire and Street Legal is, particularly on Street Legal, is a godsend, because, you know, not that you can't make out his singing, but particularly in the original production, it was a little bit muddy, although it didn't detract from the quality of the songs too much. It was still a superlative album. But this is if you want to pick this up on a physical format, then this remaster from the late 90s, look out for the red Columbia label there, and look out for a 1999, I think, or 8 release date. Much improved sound. So at the time, this album was dismissed by Rolling Stone as weird beyond immediate comment, and they just chucked a 3-star rating out of 5 in the Rolling Stone record guide. And Greil Marcus, the famous critic, was very down on it, and particularly picked out Baby Please Stop Crying and Is Your Love in Vain as being fake Dylan, and Dylan singing about not very important words and not being very nice to women, etc., which I suppose is not entirely a charge without any foundation, as the guys in this podcast admit as they go through it. But the thing about this album is it's honest. Will I show you the cover? Sorry. Superb cover, taken in California, I think, outside the recording studio. I think it's Santa Monica it was recorded in. Yeah, Santa Monica. And this is the inner sleeve. And it's on the Columbia label. Oh, sorry, CBS, this one. So yeah, Greil Marcus was very down on it, and the critics on the whole did not react very favourably to it. Even then or since, really. Even if you look at the Ultimate Music Guide, Street Legal is not given a very favourable review. I'll give it 5 stars out of 5, or if you're doing it out of 3, 3 out of 3. Anyway, the guys on the podcast went through the tracks, and Changing of the Guards, intriguingly, they played a snippet from a live version which I'd never heard. I'll have to go and check out if there's a full version of it on YouTube. A live version from 78, because he played it a handful of times between July and December 78 and has never played it since. And on this version that they played, he's really going for the lyrics. And at the end of each verse, you know, the King of Queen of Swords, he's actually going up the King of Queen of Swords like that, and screaming the lyrics and singing it really passionately. And I would just love a video or if a bootleg series comes out of Street Legal, for them to include that, because it's absolute treat to listen to. It wasn't particularly good quality, the version they played on this one, but I was listening to it late at night with the volume on quite low, so I'll have to go and rediscover if I can get a good quality version of that. But while they were discussing the tracks, Matt, who's one of the guests, Matt Crafting, was telling I think it was him telling the story how he walked into a pizza place in New York City, and Lou Reed was sitting in one of the booths, and so he was sitting in the next door booth thinking, I've got to go up to him, but I don't want to. I'm nervous because Lou's just going to be caustic and tell me to get lost. But so as he was leaving the pizza place, Matt turned to Lou Reed and said, "The Bells is my favourite album of all time." And Lou Reed looked up through his spectacles and said, "Thank you." And he replies, "Absolutely, without question." And Lou Reed again says, "Thank you." I thought that was a glorious little story. I wish I had stories like that of meeting my idols in pizza joints in New York City or anywhere really. So they're talking about Changing in the Guards as a seminal track of this album, and it certainly is. One struggles to find superlatives to describe how good this track is, from the lyrical imagery, from the tune, to the female backing vocalist's work a treat, the sax, the arrangement, the enthusiasm, the impossible to penetrate exactly what the song is about, but that's what makes it so marvellous, and probably in my top 5 or 10 Dylan songs of all time. New Pony, not everyone likes this, but I think it's brilliant, and the guys on the podcast were, first of all, they said it's the disco mystic of the album, and I was thinking, what are they talking about? And then I realised they were referring to a track from The Bells from Lou Reed, because I checked out that album after listening to the podcast and listened to it, and that's the kind of strange off-the-wall track from The Bells, although there are more than one of those. But anyway, New Morning is New Pony is yeah. I mean, I think it's about his divorce, and it's not a particularly pleasant track if you're Sarah listening to it. But interested, the guys on the podcast were saying Charlie Patton had done a song about a pony as well, which had fairly similar lyrics and a kind of bluesy song, and this is possibly one of the bluesiest songs that Dylan's ever done in his career, and a really dirty sax solo to suit the mood. Then they go on to talk about No Time to Think, and quite amusingly they think it's about being online, talking into 2021, having no time to think because you're too busy on Twitter and Facebook the whole time. But this was obviously written in 1978 when there was no internet, and Dylan's saying, you know, socialism and capitalism and everything is taking up all of our time, and there's no time to think. Some of the rhymes are a little bit forced, but the sheer energy and enthusiasm of the performance and the musicianship wins you over in the end. And I think it's David Mansfield on the violin, yeah, who's brilliant as well. So many great lines, and the guys mentioned a few. Your conscience betrayed you when some tyrant waylaid you, and rhyming China doll with alcohol is quite an amusing one as well. And then they go on to talk about Baby Please Stop Crying to round up part 1, and then they do side 2 in part 2. And hilarious commentary here on this song about what it means, because it is a bit of a, it seems like a straightforward love song, but then if you study the words, go get me my pistol, babe, I can't tell right from wrong, baby please stop crying. What is he saying? Go get me my pistol because I'm going to shoot you, the girlfriend, or shoot the girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, or, you know, go down to the river, honey, I will meet you there. Well, why do you go down to the river with someone normally? Either to shoot them or to make love to them, I suppose. But it's, I mean, endless speculation, and the lyrics, he's a little bit impatient in the lyrics because he's saying, please stop crying, you know. And I don't know what he's done to make her cry, or whether it's the ex-boyfriend who's made the girl cry, but it's tearing up his mind, the fact that she's crying her head off. So it's not particularly sympathetic lyric. But then, on the other hand, if it is the ex-boyfriend who's broken her heart and he's just trying to cheer her up, you've been down to the bottom with a bad man, babe, and you're back where you belong. Go get me my pistol, baby, honey, I can't tell right from wrong. Certainly that's the way I interpreted the lyric, that he was talking about the ex-boyfriend there. And if you're looking for assistance, babe, or you just want some company, or if you just want a friend you can talk to, honey, come and see about me. And in the last verse, you've been hurt so many times and I know what you're thinking of. Well, I don't have to be no doctor, babe, to see that you're madly in love. Well, madly in love with who? With Bob or with the ex-boyfriend? It's a little bit ambiguous. But I've always given Bob the benefit of the doubt on this track, and it's a great song, and it's a very easy listen, and you could see why it was quite a big hit single, maybe not in all countries, but in a few countries. I think in Europe it was quite big. And yeah, and the great sax from, who's playing the sax on here? Steve Douglas, great sax from him. And then we move on to side 2, and Is Your Love in Vain, possibly the most controversial track on the album, and the guys acknowledged that the lyric is not too pleasant, but on the other hand, we're dealing with Bob going through a breakup and being truthful and maybe showing his darker side, and which, you know, how many of us can say that we've been totally decent throughout all our relationships in our lives? I don't think any of us can really look in the mirror and say we've been perfect. So I'm sure if you're going through a breakup, it doesn't always bring out the best in you. And maybe in this song, although it's unclear who the lyrics are aimed at, is it aimed at Sarah when he's, you know, going to split up with her fairly soon, or is it aimed at a new girlfriend who might be taking Sarah's place? Or it's a little bit ambiguous, but the line which always comes in for Stick, can you cook and sew, make flowers grow? Can you understand my pain? Although self-indulgent and self-pitying and all that, is actually quite an amusing lyric, and I don't think it's terribly offensive even by modern day standards, because there's been a lot worse lyrics written over the years than that. And it's a lovely tune and a nice one to play on the piano. So, Signor, the guys on the podcast focus on the fact that it's such a desperate song. And when one listens to it on face value at first listen, it doesn't seem particularly negative. Just seems kind of a kind of dreamy ballad about being in the Wild West or something, because the brackets Tales of Yankee Power, which is difficult to fathom really. But actually, if you read the lyrics, you know, some of them are pretty desperate, like "This place don't make sense to me no more." Is there any truth in that, Signor? Yeah, I don't know if I want to quote any of the other lyrics, but just a glorious song. And apparently, I haven't heard it, but there's a great version on the latest bootleg series on the deluxe set, but which I don't have. So, and apparently it might even be better than Street Legal. So, from the Street Legal version, which, if that's true, would be sensational. And then we come on to True Love Tends to Forget, which over the years has really grown on me as a track. I thought it was maybe a weak link to begin with, but no, not at all, because some of the words and which they point out in the podcast, lying in the reeds without any oxygen, it's great imagery. Sure, you drift into infinity and come back again. Yeah, true love tends to forget, meaning tends to forget your partner's faults, I think, that kind of meaning. We better talk this over is, again, a very amusing discussion on this track, because, you know, why is Bob discussing this with Sarah when they're basically through with their relationship? What's the point in having a discussion, even unless it's over custody, I suppose? But the opening line, I think we better talk this over, maybe when we both get sober, seem to imply that they can't really communicate without having blazing rows anymore, which I think we've all been there, or those of us who've been through breakups know what Bob is talking about there. And but it's a very, you know, underrated song. Not a lot of people talk about it outside the fan base, and the sound is very evocative of classic Dylan, and great guitar. Who's playing the guitar on this album? Billy Cross. Rhythm guitar, Stephen Souls, and also electric rhythm guitar, Bob Dylan. So I think all three of them are probably playing on this. It sounds very powerful. And then The Journey Through Dark Heat, Where Are You Tonight, bookends the album perfectly with, you know, finishing off where Changing the Guard started off. And these two, the guys on the podcast, the Jokermen and their guests, seem to think these are the two seminal tracks on the album, and I would probably agree. And there's an interesting comparison with in Changing of the Guards. He climbs up her golden locks or something, and then or vice versa, or she holds on to his golden locks, and then in the last song he's climbing up her hair. So that's quite a nice reversal, and but very desperate sounding. And you know, this book, which I may have showed you before, written by well, I'll look it up, Tim Dowley and Barry Dunnage. So there's a little chapter on street legal, and he's saying, I fought with my twin, the enemy within, till both of us fell by the way, which is a biblical reference, because the Bible's always going on about duality of the duality struggle. And like, for example, Paul in Romans, I cannot understand my own behavior. I fail to carry out the things that I want to do, and I find myself doing the things that I hate, doing the very things that I hate. Dylan goes on to express the possibilities of life after Sarah. There's a white diamond gloom on the dark side of this room, and a pathway that leads to the stars. If you don't believe there's a price for this sweet paradise, just remind me to show you the scars. There's a new day of dawn, and I finally arrived. If I'm there in the morning, baby, you'll know I've survived. I can't believe it. I can't believe I'm alive. But without you, it doesn't seem right. Oh, where are you tonight? So he may have found a kind of new dawn, you know, but it's pretty empty, and he doesn't like it because he says it doesn't seem right without her. Anyway, we all know what happened next, because the very next song Bob released after this song was Gotta Serve Somebody. So he went on the spiritual journey, and this song tends to almost predict that, because he's in a very dark state, and he's knowing he's really screwed up with this relationship, and something is troubling him, and he's not a happy bunny at all. And so that led to Slow Train Coming the following year. And also, these guys who wrote the book say in some ways this album is, because it's mixed with reality, it's actually more, in a way, it's more Christian than the albums that followed. I wouldn't agree with that necessarily, but at the beginning of the chapter they say, for new and old fans alike, Street Legal showed Dylan's capacity for finding new themes and for producing great music when no one really expected him to. The back of the sleeve even has him looking a little Alice Cooper. Having passed through a series of deep and increasingly personal struggles, this album once again was great precisely because of those struggles. Pop music had evolved out of attempts to express reality. In the 50s, Elvis had amalgamated blues and rock and pushed the lovesick crooner image a little further. Dylan had moved on to expressions of mature love, and finally to the breakdown of relationships with a stark reality and searing conviction. Street Legal, expressive of a wish to find new direction, is an album of renewed intensity. Dylan has learnt how to tell us more, and he has more to tell. The opening song is Changing of the Gods. 16 Years tells us it is a song about his career and is looking back. And in looking back, he questions the basis of his previous decisions. There is no turning back now, of course. And then he quotes, but Eden is burning. Either brace yourself for elimination, or else your hearts must bear the courage of the changing of the gods. Peace will come with tranquility and splendor on the wheels of fire, but will offer no reward when the false idols fall. So the very favourable commentary on Street Legal in that particular book, but as I say, it hasn't always been the case with the critics. And I just want to recommend this album. I know there's a lot of you out there who love it already, like Calico Silver and Henry Hemming and various others, but the Jokermen, I would like to thank them for this superb podcast. But any of you who haven't checked out Street Legal, then I would encourage you to do so, because I don't think you're going to be disappointed. There's so much to discover musically, lyrically. Just a really fascinating album. So thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.